Welcome in, guys. We've got Nick. I always think of your last name is Over the Hill Hooper, but what's your actual last name?
It's Reiherzer.
Reiherzer.
Over the Hill Hooper's fine too,
Yeah.
man. It's probably a cooler last name.
It's kind of sick. That's how I have you on my phone.
Easier to pronounce for sure.
Yeah, so it's Reihurst?
Reiherzer.
Reiherzer, okay.
Yeah, see, that's
German?
what I'm saying. I already proved it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
German?
it's German. Yeah,
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So we've got Nick here, and Nick is, man, someone that we brought into Kingdom Health beforehand, but I just love, I love the voice that you bring in. He's a worship pastor, but also just has a lot of history in basketball, fitness, athletics. We just got done actually training at an ATG Expo conference here in Clearwater, Florida, and wanted to hop on here for a quick session for a Kingdom Health podcast episode and just jam out on all things Jesus and fitness. Man, I'm just going to go right at it. I would love to hear, man, like, how do you see the combination of, like, what we're doing here where we're training and doing all this fitness stuff? How do you see that combining into your faith? Like, where do you connect with God in exercise and moments like this where we have, like, 40 people who are all training together, getting stronger, community? Like, where do you see the Lord in just how fitness brings people together in the overall experience?
It's a great question, man.
A little closer with the mic?
Yeah. I think we might have even talked about this a little bit the last time I was on. But for me, everything I do, whether it's, fitness or my actual job at the church or whatever it might be, is an opportunity for God to move in you, through you, and to impact the people around you. And so, especially when you get into a room like this where you've got, how many ever dudes were in there, it's such an opportunity, even in some of the conversation we were just having before we hopped on here, of you don't always have to necessarily directly talk about Jesus. I'm not saying Jesus, I'm not preaching to anybody in this room, but I'd like to think that just by the way that I interact with people, that they experience the love of Christ because he moves through me, So that's how I see it, man. Like, everything that I do with fitness is part of a ministry. It's part of an opportunity to reach people and to impact people, whether they realize it or not. Yeah. And that's a lot of times the most effective ministry is, like, it's not necessarily walking into a room and trying to jam it down somebody's throat and go like, hey man, like, turn and burn, you know what I mean? Like, but literally just going into a room and just, just being loving and being kind and being gracious and being encouraging to people. Like, I think those situations open opportunities for conversations that could come down the road where then you do get to talk more specifically about Jesus, right? And so that, to me, that's everything in my life. So that's how I look at this too, man, is like, it's a beautiful opportunity to come together, work on ourselves in a lot of different ways, but obviously the primary focus being physical today and just taking care of the temple, man, like making sure that we're feeling good,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think I love fitness for the piece on, like, kind of like you're saying, it's, I think as Christians, if we're so one-dimensional to where all we do is read the Bible, go to church on Sundays, and everything that we do is immersed inside of kind of the Christian sphere, it's like we're not able to, like, go out and, like, fitness is such a great way to evangelize, but also just, like, be out in the world as Jesus.
Yeah.
And I think it's like whether you're, at your job, you're doing woodworking, like in a building with other people, or anything. It's like when you can go out there and do regular people things, but like Jesus, man, it's like, it makes me think of. Did you ever watch The Chosen?
I've seen only bits and pieces. I haven't seen the whole thing.
Yeah. There's one of the guys who follows Jesus in there, and of course The Chosen's like, has creative liberty to kind of like add some things. It's a TV show. It's not the Bible. But it was talking about how one of the followers found Jesus because he was on a work project with him, and Jesus was the carpenter there.
Right.
And he just saw how Jesus interacted with people. You know what I mean? Like, in that process, something that's like so slow of just seeing somebody, not like a major miracle, not anything like that, just like rubbing shoulders with somebody, eating lunch with them, and it's like that was part of what got him to start to follow Jesus. And I really feel that, man, like inside of fitness. It makes me think of some of the guys like I would play football with back in high school. I knew they were Christians and I wasn't a Christian at the time, but I would see how they held themselves. Right, in certain situations. And, they may have cussed a couple times when guys were cussing and stuff like that, and, like, just had a good time and engaged in some of that stuff. But they would always, there was a certain thing to where you could just see there was like a spirit on them to where almost like to call it simply what it was, like the stupidity of like us as like 16, 17, 18-year-olds, they had, but they wouldn't engage on the same level. Right. And it's like, even being in these situations, you can joke around with people, but it's like they see your lines and they see your edges, and it's like, I wonder what gave him that.
Yep.
Right. Like we're in a house right now with like with 6 other guys. I'm in a house with 6 other guys. I know you're with your wife over here for it, but like one of the guys even just saw like in the morning, I was the first one up, not on purpose, I just woke up, but drank a little bit of water, went outside, just dived into Romans, right? God's been calling me a lot into the epistles. In the morning, I got out of Bible study for a while, and I think it's okay to like step away so that way you can come back in excited.
Yep.
But now there's a fervor on me, and I've just been in the epistles, and I'm just sitting there in Romans, and he comes out and he's like, man, you guys with your morning rituals. But it was like that comment made me realize it was like he saw something different.
Yes.
It didn't matter that I was reading the Bible. That probably like was something extra that he saw on the degree, but he just saw something different that was like a leading by the Spirit, and it didn't even have to be the Bible or anything like that, but he just saw a different life being lived, and I could tell it like kind of triggered something in him to where he's like, I want a little bit more organization like that.
Yep.
And I think fitness does that so well for people too, because it's like they see you living this healthy life, right? And it's like, I want to be more like him. And when you find the center of what is you, which is Jesus,
Most definitely.
It opens so many doors, man.
Agreed. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
There's a ton of parallels. Excuse me. I always, I have to chuckle because I know obviously fitness is something that's really important to me. But so often it's not hard to me to draw parallels between the Christian faith and fitness. What
are some of your favorites?
Just talking about things like that, like having discipline. I mean, like spiritual disciplines are a huge part of the Christian walk. Having the discipline to, I love what you said, right? Like it doesn't need to become this rigid, Pharisaical type of I have to check these boxes. It should become. It may need to start as a discipline, but then it becomes something that you just love.
It makes you think of, I don't want to cut you off here too much, but like Galatians, I was just reading through that the other day, and it's like Paul talking about how, and even Romans talks a little bit on this, it's like the law isn't something, it was there for a reason, and it was a tutor for people, but now we live in liberty, right? Now we live in freedom, we live by the Spirit, and it's like, so kind of like what you said, like you might have to start this discipline in a box, and it might feel very legalistic, but it can evolve into something else, and that could be your tutor.
Yes.
I love that piece, man.
Yeah. And to me, that is fitness, right? Yeah. I mean, I started fitness when I was young, but like I did it as a fun thing at first, but then eventually it did turn into a thing where it's like, well, now I need to go to the gym because I need to be in shape. And at first that can feel rigid. It can feel like, well, if I don't do this thing, then there's this fear of what comes if I don't. But eventually you put into practice the little steps day after day after day, and it becomes something that you begin to love, you begin to enjoy. And now fitness is not like work to me. Fitness is fun. I love going in the gym and being with a group of dudes who love it as well. It's just a fun thing, you know what I mean? So, I mean, I could draw. I feel like every time I have an opportunity to give an illustration, I read something in the Word, and immediately my brain wants to take it to places of like, oh yeah, it's kind of like when you go to the gym and and a lot of my friends who aren't as into fitness are like looking at me like, bro, stop. But I think it's true, man. I think it's true. So
those parallels are so helpful. And fitness is such an applicable thing, but it's like even to where you can make the parallels in it, because like you're doing, and like you said, there's a lot of discipline in it. But even it's like, like with music and worship, you could probably find a lot of the same ways, like just in playing the guitar, singing, coordinating a band, and all of that, man.
Absolutely. Sorry.
Like,
I keep holding my microphone too far away. Yeah, bro.
You're cool, man.
It's great.
Yeah. I love it, man. Just a quick, little episode here on the podcast, man. We'll kind of close out here with, let's say for somebody listening in on this, they're a believer who's just starting to even just talk to Jesus about health and like get him involved in this journey, right? Like, what would be your advice for that person? Like, maybe they've worked out before, haven't been consistent, in the long run, and now they're like, hey, I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna just follow the Holy Spirit on this. I'm gonna root, this journey in biblical truths and just find like where the Lord's calling me in health and let it expand into other areas, man. Like, for that person, what's some just a word for him, man?
I mean, I think what can be confusing sometimes when you get into fitness, where you see this a lot, people get overwhelmed because there's so much information.
Yeah.
There's so many sources of information. And so when you start talking about like tuning into the Holy Spirit, like I think probably one of the biggest things I would tell anybody who's getting started, definitely come up with a plan. You know, have a plan and let that plan be spirit led. Let the Lord lead you. Spend time praying about it. I know people might think that's weird. Like, well, what do you mean? Like, spend time and let God lead you. If you're doing something and it's burning you out, there's probably a pretty good chance that it's not spirit led.
Yeah,
that's at least what I've experienced in my life. Like if I'm beating my head against a wall over and over. And so find things that you love to do in fitness and just take little steps. I mean, it's just little steps day after day. Trust that God's going to lead that, and don't give yourself grace. That would be my biggest thing is give yourself some grace. It's not about perfection. I know this can be such a cliche, but really, it's not about perfection. It's about pursuit, right? It's just pursue it. Just continue to pursue the Lord. Let him lead and guide you in the process. If you do those things, I think you're going to find joy in it. You're going to start to find even peace. I mean, Lord meets you in that stuff. I think that's why I love fitness so much, because it's not a separate thing for me. My faith and my fitness, as well as all areas of my life, are intertwined. I don't have boxes or separate areas that, you know, they're all one with the Lord over all of them, you know? So I think that's it. Yeah.
That's so good, man. It's I love what you said there. It makes me think of, you know, I'm teaching a class at my church right now called Kingdom Health Foundations. It's the one I talked to you about how we're going to be writing the books on the classes as well. And we've got people in there who are like 60s, 70s, been believers for their whole life, if not most of their life. And just the conversation on like praying about what are you going to eat each day, or just talking to the Lord on simple things like that. They'll come up to me, man, after the class, like, I never thought about talking to God about what I eat.
Right.
You know, and it's kind of like you said, it's the simple advice is involve Holy Spirit in everything. Right? Talk to him at all times. But it's funny how we kind of choose what boxes he can speak to us in, man. And I think that's the biggest piece. You just open the door for everything.
That's it.
Man, and fitness is just a piece of everything.
Absolutely. I agree completely, man. Yep.
That's awesome, bro. Appreciate you, man.
Always, man. You too.
Absolutely, man. So you guys can check out Nick at Over the Hill Hooper on Instagram. You're on TikTok, Facebook, anything?
I have,
YouTube, anything else?
I don't post as much there, but I usually just post to Instagram. I tried branching out, man.
Yeah, it's all good.
You know.
You've made a big impact on Instagram.
Instagram's great, though.
Absolutely. Check him out. He's got some great content. A lot of ATG-focused stuff on fixing the joints, getting your body right. I mean, you know, you're almost 40 and you're dunking, you know, and doing great. So he's got a lot of good stuff on just longevity and making sure we take care of our body. So just great professional. I respect you, man, and love what you put out, dude.
Appreciate you, man.
You guys can do the same and find what he's doing. Love you guys. See you in the next one.